This week on Lead One, success versus significance. Success dies with you, significance lives on.
Welcome to the Lead One podcast, where our mission is to lead leaders through leadership. The goal is to get 1% better every day. Let's see what Drew and the guys have to say.
Welcome back to Lead One podcast. Let's get 1% better this week. I've got the crew with us, Brandon, France, and Sam Buck.
What up?
But we've also got another member of our leadership team with us this morning, Jim Flanders. He's going to be a guest on the show as he assisted in coming up with the topic today on success versus significance. So, Jim, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And obviously, you had a thought process of where maybe you wanted this episode to go with this topic. So tell us where your head was at, maybe, or which one's more important to you.
I think oftentimes in business we get to chasing success. We're worried about what we can get out of life, and we fail to remember that there's another part of life, and that is being significant. I read a quote, "No person was ever honored for what he received. Honor has been the reward for what he gave." And I think part of the problem is that most of us think of success as a destination, when in reality it's a journey. We're always striving to be successful. But significance is something that will carry us on and on. Drew, your first quote talks about that will live on in perpetuity. And I think that we get in the mindset that success is more important than anything else. But think about what you leave behind and how we will impact others. I read another quote that says, "Your candle loses nothing when it lights another." And you think about how we can impact others, not just in our lives, in our churches, in our families, but how we can impact others through our daily walk. I think that's pretty cool.
You know, Jim, to that point, I heard that success is the achievement of a goal and significance is the meaning of that goal. To your point, you mentioned always chasing or always striving for success. And I think that's what happens, because if you achieve that goal, then that's over and done with, right? If that's the definition of success. And so you're constantly, it's almost like a hamster wheel effect, right? You're always chasing, but maybe never really reaching. I think the significance is understanding maybe more of what the purpose of the goal is and the bigger picture, I guess.
Wow, good word. I think part of our problem with success is, once again, we're always chasing something. I think of success in the fashion that we're thinking of ourselves. But when I think of significance, I think about thinking of others. I think we're putting more emphasis on what we can do to make others better. When success, we're typically chasing a dream that helps us be better. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being successful. But when you put others first, you think, then how much better can you be? How much more successful can you be when your emphasis is not on yourself, but on how you can help other people?
One of the other definitions, if you will, that I read was that basically success is wealth, status, and power. Significance is basically a quality worthy of attention. And so I agree with you, Jim, that I think success, I think of it almost like singular, that it just applies to you specifically. But a question that I thought of that I'd like to pose to the crew this morning is, do you feel like one depends on the other? Meaning, in order to have significance, must there be success?
To some degree. I think sometimes, like I was saying before, I think I mentioned this to you guys, Jim and Brandon, it's you can have success without significance, but it's very hard to have significance without success. I'll tell you the greatest example that I can think of. We all remember the Super Bowl with Patriots versus Seahawks, right? The last one they played. Seahawks get down to the 1 yard line and they make a decision to to throw a ball instead of running it to giving it to Marshawn Lynch, right? Well, if we remember who intercepted that ball, his name Malcolm Butler. I believe his name Malcolm Butler. So he didn't have a great year. He didn't have a really successful year. It wasn't a year that you would go back and say, yo, he was one of the best corners in the league. But the timing of his play was so significant that it created another level of success for the rest of his next year and the years to come, right? So I think significance a lot of times is about timing. When you do something versus just doing something. Because a lot of people can accomplish a lot over a course of time, but if they didn't do it in the clutch, if they didn't do it when it was absolutely needed, you know what I mean? You got basketball players who score 40 points in a game, but when the game's on the line, they miss the shot every time. Is that significant, or is it just successful? So I think significance is more. A lot of times is about timing.
Okay. I think along those lines, Sam, when you talk about timing, when I think about who do I know that significance is important to, it's almost never anyone who is young.
No.
And I think when you talk about timing, I think about it from a standpoint of age, which typically is associated with wisdom.
Maturity.
Jim, maybe that's why we have you on the episode this morning. So I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
For me, I agree with you. When you're young and you're starting out, you're just chasing the pie in the sky, that big shiny thing. I think as you are going down your path, you may leave some significance behind, but I don't think most people start out thinking along those lines of being significant. They just want to be successful, and it just so happens that they wind up being significant at the same time. Me personally, I never thought of being significant. It's always something that I've done growing up in my 20s and my 30s, growing up, whatever it was I was doing at the time. And people, I hear people come back to me and say, "Oh, Franz, that X, Y, and Z that you did, that was great that you did that for us, or that you left that for us." And I never look at it that way. I'm just like, really? Because I don't look at I guess in my pursuit of my goals, you leave behind little trinkets along the way, and you never really know how those trinkets impact people along your journey. And when I have the moment to stop and look back at what I did, and you have people who appreciate what you did and these accolades, for me, it's touching.
I think you find that most people that are the most significant are people who never set out to be significant.
Yeah, they just want to help.
They just wanted to help. They just wanted to, and once again, that goes back to doing for others. It's those people that we remember or have the most impact in the world, the people that didn't strive to have any impact on the world.
Well, I think part of that, Jim, is Solomon said in Proverbs 23:7, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." So it's almost kind of like it's either in your heart or it's not, right? I mean, I'm not saying that it can't be taught or trained, but your heart has to be in the right place first to achieve that significance.
I was having a hard time defining success, and I think I understand what it is more now since we're having this little conversation. But I was having a hard time because I feel like, a lot of people would say I had success in my music career or, but to me, I feel like, I felt like I had more potential to give. So I don't feel as successful as people say. You know what I mean? And today's success looks a lot different. I do a lot of thinking about letting my wife get her dreams out, letting my wife live out her dream, me having to, doing whatever I can do to help her dream a little bit, because she let me dream for my whole life, and then and she was just home. You know what I mean? So now it's like, she wanna do a soap business, and I'm like, championing her, right, on her soap business or whatever she wants to do,
Right.
And I'm measuring my success or how much I can help her get her dreams.
That sounds like the tunnel to significance, though.
Well, I was
Yeah,
about to say
that. Yeah,
because success asks, how can I add value to myself? Significance asks, how can I add value to others? And that others is Andrea, right?
Yeah. But if you go back to a music career, when you look at the music scene right now in New Haven, Connecticut, is a bunch of people that I touch that's moving the needle. You know what I mean? Even in the music industry, it's people that I touch that's becoming these popular producers or popular artists and stuff like that. And I'm part of their story. So that was being done, obviously, without my knowledge, it was being done. And the fact that I didn't measure my music career as successful, is a lot of significance there.
Real quick, I was going to say this. I think success. That's a good point, because I think success could be is quantitative. Like you can actually measure it based on whatever your subjective nature of that success is.
Well, everybody has their own definition.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and because based on your own definition, you can measure it, right? I think significance is so it's priceless, and it can't be quantified. Like you can't really put a lid on it, or because you don't know when or where that significance is taking place. You ever been in a room and people said one thing and it just stuck with you, but they didn't know they were being significant in your life, and you may not have even shared it with them, but that moment, the time that it was said, it just helped you in that place. And I think a lot of times when we talk about, when we listen to speakers or preachers or hear a song and something just stands out to you, those moments make sense because when it happened, and just that person didn't know that they were going to be like that for you. That's just the goal. Your goal can't be to be significant, because you'll never achieve it, because that seems self-serving. You know what I mean? Significance. We talking about leadership. Leadership is about guiding people to a direction, and just doing it out just doing it because you want to see them succeed. And a lot of times you don't know what part of yourself is going to be significant. And on the other side of that, you don't know what parts of you are going to be detrimental to people. So you also have to be cognizant of what you're saying, what you're doing, to shed the light.
I agree with what you're saying. It makes me think about what we do now in the financial sector, how, it's our job to push the needle forward and train people. And when we train people, we don't know what we leave them with, because they're never going to come back and grade us. We grade them on their level of success or their production or how they've taken that information. But no one turns around and judges us for how we deliver that information, right? And like you said, you don't know what you may have said or done that's going to leave them with that golden nugget that may change their life. I had a situation day before yesterday where someone that I trained, Drew, I showed you that text message. Someone that I trained actually took the time out to actually thank me for me training them and helping them reach their goals. That was so touching to me, because I don't think I've ever gotten that before, and I didn't realize how much value that I impressed upon this person to now move that person's needle forward. And so I guess that's my value that I left with that one particular situation.
Franz, I read in preparing for the episode, I read that once significance is sensed, nothing else will satisfy. And I think that's that's to your point, what you're talking about. To circle back around to the question, as I don't pretend in any way to be an expert on this topic, but someone who I consider to be is John Maxwell. And the way that he answered that question is that success is usually the stepping stone to significance. And he goes on to say that there has to be a certain amount of success in people's lives before they're willing to take the step to significance. And that's basically where they ask themselves in life, what's beyond this professional and monetary success? And he said, pursuing significance takes us out of our comfort zone. That, Sam, to your point, he said, I don't think you glide or fall into significance. You don't wake up one day and and say to yourself, wow, I've arrived. I'm significant now. And so, but I think as a society, we are surrounded by success and not significance, which to me is out of balance, right? I mean, you get on social media and it's all about the Rolexes and the Bentleys and the big houses and all the things that success generates, but none of those things create significance. I mean, there's nobody in history that's remembered because they drove a Lamborghini.
Exactly.
Right?
It's the illusion of success, I believe. I don't even think it's real success. I think it's the illusion of it. I think
and it's so easy to fake it.
Yeah,
right?
you know what I'm saying? We become enamored with the glitz and the glamour of what things are and not what things actually or what things look like to be, but not what things actually are. And I think significance, and people who are heading towards significance rarely, and I mean very rarely, show off their success, right? So because there's something in them that won't allow them to do that. Like, for instance, I have a good friend of mine who just retired 14 years from the NFL, and his biggest flex is that he doesn't flex. He doesn't. He could, but he never does. And everybody's life that he's touched, it's been significant, right? He's done something that's tried to help change your life. He's at least gave you an opportunity to try to change your life. And right, and that, to me, when people are truly successful and they're heading towards significance, it never looks like they're trying to show you how successful they are. You know what I mean? You could just get a sense of those people who want to head towards significance opposed to who just want to show you.
You never know how
successful.
that's going to show up. I think it was stated earlier. Most people that are significant never set out to be significant. It happened along that journey. This little podcast that y'all have started, you never know how that's going to impact somebody. I talk to people all the time who said, I listen to you guys' podcast. Well, you're making a difference. Some little nugget, as you said, Sam, some little nugget is out there that caught somebody's attention. We are, to Franz's point, we're in a place where we have an opportunity to make an impact on people's lives every day, whether it be the people, our coworkers, or whether it be the people that we get to help in day-to-day life. And what a great place to be when you can be significant without even striving to be significant. You can be successful without striving to be successful. We have those opportunities to make a difference in people's lives. That's a pretty cool place to be to me.
Jim, I'm glad that you're here with us this morning because you're right in that everybody out there has the ability to make an impact on someone. And I realized when we started this podcast, we weren't going to specifically talk about insurance, but I can't avoid it on this episode and topic because what a unique situation that all of us sitting at this table have to have a real significant impact on someone's life. That we said starting the episode, success lasts a lifetime, but significance can last several lifetimes. And you think about the fact of what sometimes an insurance product can do that creates a generational impact for someone. And obviously the reward for what we do is also the renewal and residual income that in turn can create a generational impact.
I wanted to comment on the Instagram comment that you said, Drew.
Yeah, I thought about that as well.
Yeah, I just think that sometimes, even in the flex, it sparks something in somebody.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I can agree with that.
So and sometimes when someone has that, say that their Instagram is all flex, sometimes when you dig into that person, you start getting to know that person, and you start seeing that they're like heavily rooted in their spirit, or they're heavily rooted in their family. You know what I'm saying? Because I used to have that thought about Grant Cardone. I used to think like, this man is all he want to do is show his helicopter.
G55.
Yeah, all he want to do is show his jet and his helicopter and all this other stuff and flex. But once you dig into that person, you start realizing that he's like family first. He's well centered in God. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I do believe that that's not that's an outlier and not the averages. Yeah, it's not the norm. I'm saying there's a lot of people who motivate in different ways, and I think like the Grant Cardones or some of those people like that. You know, sometimes they know what type of person they're trying to motivate, right? But there is a lot of individuals.
So basically, what you're saying is he's recognizing that the flash creates the attention that he needs in order to gain the significance.
But I think there is a level of success that you need to show people for them to be able to galvanize, for you to be significant in their lives, right? Like they can't, like nobody's going to trust your words, like if they can't see that they're actually being effective in your own life. You know what I mean? Like if I'm trying to show them how to play piano and like I'm trash, they're not gonna want to do that. So I got to show them, right? I got to show them I've been successful at it.
As a people, we're visual.
Yeah, we're visual,
and we have to see it first to believe it.
But there's got to be some substance somewhere.
Absolutely,
significance can't happen without substance.
Well, you have people who are successful and have substance, and you have people who are successful and have no substance, right?
Right.
So it's a matter of, like you said, you got to look past the flash and. If you can, or if you have that opportunity to get to know that person to see if there is some substance behind them.
I think it's like what Drew was saying. Like you literally said success. Significance usually happens when people are getting a little older, right? Which means that success has had some longevity. There's no short-lived success that will create significance. Well, I ain't gonna say no. I'm not gonna be absolute. I'm not gonna be absolute. Short-lived success could, but I'm saying from a normal standpoint, an everyday person, longevity will give you more opportunity to be significant. In my opinion, that doesn't mean I'm correct.
No, I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I mean it's like Maxwell said that's why I think a lot of times the significance is associated with age, because there comes a time where you realize the success is not necessarily, or the things that the success brought, the money, for instance, that's not what's important. It then becomes about maybe what can the money do. And so you think about, you talking about your buddy that played in the NFL, that in order for him to have, and in him not flexing, in order for him to have significance, there is a certain level of flex, whether we call it that or not. More than likely, he stroked a check for somebody's house one time, or wrote a check to Habitat for Humanity that provided several houses for somebody. So that's not him flexing on Instagram, but without the monetary aspect, none of those things were possible. Yep. And so that's why I believe that the success has to be there, whatever your definition of success is. But I think it's difficult to have that true significance without having the success first.
To be impactful, you have to have some success.
Yeah. So in closing, I'll leave you with a quote from Maxwell. I know when a lot of us that have children think about success or significance, we think about the lives of our children and the role that we play in their lives. And that is a real measure for most of us. But he has a quote that put it in perspective for me that almost makes you think that there's more, or there's a bigger way to have significance. And the quote says, "When you influence a child, you influence a life. When you influence a father, you influence an entire family. And when you influence a leader, you influence all that look to him or her for leadership." So don't underestimate who you can be significant to. Have a good week.
If you got 1% of value from this podcast, do us a favor. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Tell your friend. Tell your coworker. Until we meet again. Lead one.